How are you?
Okay.
They were doing all
And how are the
over.
kids?
Morning, everybody. Happy Sunday,
Good morning.
Independence Day. And we're continuing, and those that are watching, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We are going through a series on relationships this summer, and we've gone through a couple so far. This week it's going to be Moses and Aaron. And again, the different relationships we've had, when we first introduced this a few weeks ago, we said, yeah, we have very different relationships, and even if we have a relationship with a person, over time, you know, the relationship changes, even if it's the same person, right? You know, it's not always, it's hard for relationships to stay, quote unquote, the same. You know, they're always kind of changing or evolving in some way, and so we're also focusing on redemption, that in the midst of all the relationships we have, how do we see God's redemptive story working out in it? So this week we're going to focus on Moses and Aaron, and as we begin, let's just open with a word of prayer, please. Father, we give you thanks this day for your goodness. Thank you for who you are. We thank you for the opportunity to come together and worship you, sing praise to your name, to be encouraged by your Spirit. Thank you for the opportunities we have to be able to share your goodness with others, and pray for those opportunities this week as well. Thank you for those that lead us in worship this morning, and thank you for the encouragement of understanding your promises are true every day, and your mercies are new every morning. Thank you for this time now. Lead our discussion, guide us, encourage us. Thank you for the truth of your word as it comes down generation after generation, and thank you for how your word lights our path and gives direction to us, and we just thank you for this time now. And we pray it's in Jesus' name, amen. So we're going to again, I think it's been a cool, you know, outcome of the whole COVID thing is that we've been able to get a glimpse into some of each other's lives in a little bit through some of these video conversations. And this week, on the theme of Aaron and Moses and Aaron, again being siblings. So Aaron was an older brother to Moses. Moses is a younger brother. And so on the theme of siblings, for those of us who would have siblings, just the thoughts on our relationships with our siblings, and how they've been a help to us, and how we've hopefully been a help to our siblings. So we'll go to the video, and this week we're going to be hearing from Amanda and Allison.
So, just in case some people don't know who you are, on my screen in the upper left is Amanda Murray, and her sister, her older sister, is in the upper right, Allison King. They grew up here at Ono, and just a few weeks ago, they were helping to lead worship while Jess was on vacation. And so it just popped into my mind this idea with Moses and Aaron complementing each other, being given different gifts, but using those gifts to glorify God. So I thought of you guys in the way you led worship. So I'm going to start with this question. Do you feel like your childhood was pretty equal?
Yeah, I think it was. I think that, I always think about our childhood growing up and that we just had, I think, a beautiful childhood with an amazing family, a support system of my parents and my grandparents and a lot of other people that provided love for us. And I never felt in my childhood that, we weren't treated equally as siblings or that there were favorites. It always just felt like we were all loved.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think we all had the same opportunities. Whatever we wanted to do, my parents supported us, whether it was the same thing as the other two or different things, and they always made things happen for us. So, yeah, I would agree.
But would you say that the three of you, and especially you two, have very different personalities?
Yes.
I think so. I think we do. But I think there's a lot of similarities too. I think Amanda and I, it's funny because we sort of have similar voices, I think.
Mhm.
And sometimes if we're talking on the phone, we even used to play this game with my mom where we would pretend we were the other one and on the phone, she couldn't see us. And then be like, oh no, this is actually Allison. And she'd be like, you got me, because we sounded the same,
Mhm.
And I think our inflections are the same. So sometimes we'll say, and our brains work the same. Sometimes we, even just recently, we said the exact same sentence at the same time with the same inflection, and we were like, But our personalities, though, all three of us definitely have different, personalities with how we are in public and, if we're introverted or extroverted, definitely different, yeah.
Mhm.
So I don't want to predict which one I think. So which one would you say is more extroverted?
What do you think, Amanda?
Between the two of us,
Yeah.
I actually think we are.
Same.
I think it depends on the moment.
I think we're the same. I think Abigail's a little more introverted.
Yeah.
Until you get to know her, she's a little bit more reserved. I think Amanda and I are both, I call myself an introverted extrovert because I am an introvert. I gain my, strength from that alone time, but I'm extroverted where I'm comfortable talking to people, meeting new people, being open with people. And I think Amanda's like the same. I think we're both extroverted, but I think we're both introverted but outgoing.
Yeah.
Would you? Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I think so. I think I don't love being in situations. I sometimes have to force myself to be outgoing. And I think Allison has those moments too. I think we're both very capable of, being in a situation and talking and getting to know people and yeah.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but both of you have done like musical things at high school. So you've been in the front,
Mhm.
and you both find that challenging.
I always say I would rather sing in front of, 500 people than have to talk. So I always feel so bad when I get asked to read scripture. That is horrifying to me. But if you ask me to lead worship, which is a longer period of time in front of the church, I'm much more comfortable. And I don't know, I see that a little different because you practice and you prepare. If I'm prepared, then I'm much more comfortable. But if I'm just thrown into something, then that's terrifying.
Huh.
So,
I think you asked if we're the same different personalities. I actually think we're more similar personalities than we are different. I'm the same exact way. I would rather be prepared, even for this Zoom. I was trying to think through my things in my head. I'd rather be prepared about what I would say than be put on the spot. My brain just works processes it. I need to think about it. But I also think, we have with performing or being in musicals and that kind of thing. We did kind of grow up, taking music lessons and being involved in performances, and so it's something we enjoy. But I definitely get, even nervous. When in college I majored in music and I got a degree in music and I had to perform in recitals all the time, and I was still always, nervous. So it's something I can do, but it's not just easy. It definitely requires,
Agree.
So having preparation helps, but are you more comfortable if you are together? Like, would it be easier for you to lead worship knowing that the other one is there than if you had to do it in a different setting where the other one was not?
100% yes. I told Allison that last week. I said, it's always better when she's there because we know each other. I know if I'm gonna have a misstep, she's just gonna fix it, and we feed off of each other in that way. I'm much more comfortable with Allison up front than anybody else.
Yeah, well, we definitely feel super comfortable together, just like she said, because we know each other and we trust each other and we support and encourage each other. It's always about the encouragement and support, and we're on the same, wavelength, and we just know each other so well. We definitely are better together for sure. I certainly if I'm helping Jess lead worship, that I'm super comfortable with that too, just because Jess is, amazing and knows what she's doing. But if Jess wasn't there and it was someone else leading, I would definitely rather have it be Amanda, because together we're more comfortable together.
So there's a comfort level with Jess as well, and I feel like now she needs to pay you some money.
No, Jess is just amazing, and there's a great comfort level there with Jess for sure.
Yeah. And she's been around for the majority of your life as well. No, definitely the majority of your life. She's been around in some form or another, because even if she wasn't leading worship here, she grew up here as well.
Right.
But so where I kind of connected that to my idea with Moses and Aaron in particular is I imagine we read stories, and when you read them, they don't seem as amazing as they are, right? Because it's just, this happened. But I imagine for Moses, it was a terribly lonely position to be in, where God is speaking to you, and not necessarily everybody else. And you're given this huge task to handle singularly, but just knowing that your brother, who shared a lot of similarities with you, was there with you, would be really supportive, right? So I loved what you said, Amanda, how I'm gonna rephrase it. I heard you kind of say, if I messed up or things weren't going right, Allison would be there to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what you were saying?
Yep.
Okay. And Allison, my assumption is you feel more comfortable correcting when Amanda's there, because you know what to expect to come from her next as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think not even just in leading worship, but I think just in our lives, you're talking about complementary siblings and knowing that the other person is there to support you. That's just everything to me. That for both of my sisters, I know I can always count on them, and if it's just me doing the thing and they're it's like you said, it was just God talking to Moses, and he was probably lonely. So if I ever felt lonely, oh my gosh, I'm in this alone, I know that they would support me and offer advice and like say, what can I do to help, you know, in any situation.
So both of you, you know, you both said that you felt blessed in your childhood.
For sure.
How about in your adulthood?
Yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
In our family support system, you know, never ceases. I think, you know, the amazing love from our parents and our grandparents and our, you know, siblings and aunts and uncles, we just have such a deep support system has not ended. And, you know, through the difficulty of the last few years, it just continues to be there to uphold us. So yeah, I think, you know, even with the really crappy things that have happened in the last few years, I still feel very blessed because I was able to walk through the horrible times with the people that love me and support me, so.
And in the midst, when times were most difficult, so especially at the end of your mom's life, did you find knowing that each other, and Abby too, I certainly am not trying to exclude her from that part, because I always feel like I'm privileged that sometimes I get to see these events, and seeing your support and love for each other, made what I think is the hardest task we are gonna have as adults, a lot easier. Would you agree with that?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. We were just, because we all shared in the same experience, in the same grief, in the same, you know, just hard, you know, difficult thing to endure as it was a long, you know, the last couple months were, very, long and hard, and, it's like you knew what was gonna happen, but it was just, because we were all there, I think if we were alone, it would have been just so hard to endure, but.
And there's such a privilege having siblings, specifically sisters, because as everyone is grieving the same person, you're all grieving a different type of relationship, whether it be your wife or your daughter, and even, you know, through our significant others in our lives, like they're there and they're very supportive, but your sisters are the only ones that know what it's like to lose that mom. And so I think it's just a very different type of bond that you have because, you know, everyone's going to grieve differently and experience the death differently, but at least you have someone else who also lost their mom versus some other type of relationship, so.
Do you think, like I don't have nearly the memories you guys would have with mom, but I can still feel like when I hear the organ play sometimes, like I see her back there. When you're leading worship, do you feel like you are carrying on that legacy?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I think the whole reason that either one of us are at the point where we would lead worship was because of that, that legacy that she passed on to us. You know, I have very vivid memories of being a little girl in the church while she was practicing the organ. You know, like on a Saturday or a Monday or whatever day, I would just be, you know, on the pew and she would be practicing. And, you know, she served the church for a long time, playing the organ, playing piano, doing Sunday school, and that was an example to us. And I even, you know, the piano that we have, that was my mom's piano. I mean, I don't think we would have taken on the, you know, the music lessons or any of that if it wasn't for her already, you know, being that example to us and then us wanting to be like her. And it's definitely a privilege, I think, to carry that on for her, for sure.
Last question. Who's the better musician?
Allison.
Not even close.
That's a difficult question because I you know, there's different levels being a musician, and I think that Amanda's extremely talented and she's an amazing singer. And I never, ever like to say like, oh, I'm the best at something. It's like,
No, it's not your personality at all.
I would just say just because I got a degree in music, that I have more knowledge of it, but I don't think I'm a better musician. I just think that I maybe have more experience with it. But I think Amanda is like equally as talented as good.
Well, I'll just say from my standpoint, I really love having you guys lead worship. I think it's really cool. One of the things that gives me comfort, I hope gives you comfort, I hope gives other people comfort, is I say to people, you know, when you're in eternity, time doesn't matter anymore. So a lot of times when I'm in worship, I feel like my grandmother in particular, who worship was vital for, I feel like she's right there with me. And I think that's really cool. So it's, you know, when I see you guys, there's just so much of me that just feels like it's a reflection of your mom. And I hope that gives you a lot of comfort and knowing that, you know, she's right here with us, and someday we won't have the veil of life between us and her and each other, and I look forward to that day.
Me too.
Me too.
Well, let me pray with you guys, then I'm gonna stop recording.
Okay.
Father, thank you for the gifts that you've given to Allison, to Amanda, and to Abigail too, Father, and for the love that you hold them, and they hold each other, Father. And I just ask you continue to strengthen, uplift them, guide, and direct them, that they would go down the paths you set before them for your glory. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen. All right, wave bye to everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Amanda and Allison, for being willing to share. So at this time, I'll just open it up to everybody. Any thoughts you had on something that was shared there?
It's just great that they took a lot of positive out of what happened. Other people would really been negative, really negative. And I'm sure it was tough.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of positives.
Those girls grew up beside us, and I would hear them playing. And the first time Amanda got her saxophone, the windows were open, and I thought there was a dead goose. It was, yeah. I don't know if she still plays, but you know, those third graders with their first instruments are amazing.
So one of the themes I think was, again, just how siblings can help each other. And again, if Rob, if you covered any of this in your sermon, we'll just say the Spirit wants to reinforce it, okay?
Yeah, that's cool.
Because, I mean, I know the theme ahead of time, and I usually watch the video, you know, Friday when it's posted, and then just kind of some thoughts. But, you know, think about Moses. You know, at what age was he when he realized that he didn't fit in? Or maybe I'm assuming he felt like he didn't fit in. But, you know, he doesn't remember being put in a basket as an infant. But at some point he realizes, I'm not Egyptian. Okay? You know, and we looked at Joseph and Benjamin last week. You know, and so after a few hundred years, all that stuff that Joseph had, you know, that all went away because now the Jews are slaves. They're not enjoying the place that Joseph had in Egypt's kingdom. And so now Moses is, you know, I don't know, how old is he, 6, 7, 8? He's starting to realize I'm not Egyptian, but I'm in a pretty great place here, and yet I'm somehow connected to these people who are slaves. And just, they talked a little bit too about feeling alone. And I'm sure, how did Moses feel as a child? Did he feel alone? We can't answer that, but
At what point did Moses and Aaron have a relationship? Because Moses was living a high life.
yeah,
Aaron was older, right?
yeah. Aaron was the elder brother. And according to Exodus 7:7, Aaron would be about 3 years older than Moses. But there may not be any determinative, there's nothing to clearly say how much older their older sister Miriam was. There could have been a big gap between Miriam and Moses, because Miriam was entrusted with the care of her infant brother when Pharaoh's edict resulted in the killing of the male Hebrew babies. So the cause for Moses is being put into the water to try to be saved was Miriam was responsible for that. So, how old was she? Don't know.
Just makes me wonder at what point he even knew he had a brother and sister.
Right.
He would.
How long was, his mother was actually brought down there to kind of take care of him?
Yeah, she was his nursing mom, right?
Yeah, I wonder how long was she involved there? Maybe she was, if it was 2-3 years, she could have been telling him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, right. Maybe it was part of her doing, but so to some degree, the Pharaoh allowed at least some, communication of Moses. You're not Egyptian. I mean, there was some allowance of that because
He didn't look Egyptian, right?
right. I mean, I don't know. We today we look at quote unquote Egypt. I mean, if I showed you a picture of an Egyptian and an Israeli Jew, I could probably find two that look pretty similar, and I could probably find two that look very different. So I don't know.
Like, I was just thinking in terms of Mira, like, we never had to, tell her she was adopted.
Mhm.
Like, she just knew that from the beginning, obviously, because she doesn't look like that. So I don't know, in my head, I just thought Moses knew he wasn't Egyptian because he didn't look Egyptian, but maybe he did. I always think of Egyptians as being very dark skinned.
Mhm.
Doesn't it kind of irritate you that the Bible doesn't answer these questions? Because actually, he clearly knows he's not Egyptian, but when he runs away, the first thing his eventual wife says to her dad is, "An Egyptian saved us." And she was referencing Moses.
Okay.
So he looked Egyptian
Okay.
to her, I have all sorts of questions
Yeah.
about, how much he knew, because he was raised in royalty, which you said, or Gene said, and Aaron would not have, but at least for the time when mom was a wet nurse, you would assume she lived in that compound as well, because you obviously wouldn't want the wet nurse far away. So you would assume her family would be there too for at least a couple years.
Yeah.
It's all those details that I would love to have that are painstakingly absent.
So his feeling, and so we're not sure how much contact he had with his biological family. Exodus chapter 2 records, again, when he saw a Hebrew being mistreated, again, the anger rose up inside of him and he killed the Egyptian, which then caused, as Rob said, him to flee for his life. And so how old is he when he flees for his life? You know, I'm not sure if we know for sure, but how long did he spend alone as a shepherd, so to speak? 40 years. Think back, 40 years ago, I was just graduating high school. So if I think about, since the day I graduated high school, I've been a shepherd. Would have been a different experience. So I think as far as Aaron coming into his life, so one thing talked about was just kind of feeling alone. I think there were definitely times, I would guess, in Moses' life, he felt in a sense alone. Like, who could he? If he knew he had a brother when he was still in the Pharaoh's household, and what did he think?
I feel like this is different than like our lives today.
Yeah.
Like, so his mom comes there to nurse him. Well, she's gonna bring her other kids with her.
Mm-hmm.
She don't leave them. So, and then it's not, I don't know, I just imagine her staying there, and, I mean, it's a job, like, she's hired to do this by the Pharaoh or whatever.
But I
So
think for
she probably just hung out there,
Yeah.
and they just lived like a family.
And for some, though, I think today they would say, I don't, it's like, because we did hear positives from Amanda and Allison about family, right? And wonderful experience and how a source of strength, I don't know, Moses, while he was still in the Pharaoh's house, could he say that, my family's my source of strength, does my brother doubt who am I? Am I Egyptian? Am I, God, why did you allow me to be raised as an Egyptian? So I was just thinking through questions, if I was Moses, what it would be like. And now you have this older brother. What does my older brother think of me? So the Bible is silent on those 40 years when Moses is a shepherd. And I guess there's speculation, did Aaron know that Moses had fled? And did Aaron know where the distances here too? This isn't like from here to, British Alberta, Canada. I mean, or, I think, the distances aren't that too difficult. Was there any communication during those 40 years between Aaron and Moses? Not sure. But it's possible that Aaron and Moses may have been in contact in some way. When God called Moses from the burning bush and Moses protested, remember what did Moses protest at the burning bush?
I can't speak well, let my
Yeah.
brother Aaron do it.
Yeah, I can't speak. Let my brother Aaron. He's the older brother. He speaks well. And then God said, even before Moses, God said, is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know that he can speak well. And he is now on his way to meet you. When he sees you, he will be glad in his heart, and I will help both of you to speak. He will speak to the people for you. He will be your spokesman, and it will be as if you were God to him. From Exodus chapter 4.
It almost sounds like God knew that Moses would say that.
Mm.
Like Aaron seemed to be on his way.
Yeah, do we take comfort in that? That in the midst of our confusion and not knowing situations that God is at work in someone else's life that's going to impact our life. You know, I think that's kind of amazing to think about how we each have free will. We each make decisions. But yet, if we're following God's Spirit and His leading, how He can use quote-unquote brothers and sisters in Christ to be a help for each other.
Do we know when Moses knew he had a brother?
Not exactly. I mean, but it
At
seems
that point,
he knew then, yes. So I think from the time he was still in Pharaoh's service as a young man, he knew. He at some point understood. I would think by the time he's 13, that there was something different, that he was not Egyptian, he was a Hebrew, but yet he was raised as an Egyptian, and he did have a family. So I think, I mean, just from reading some things, it seems like there is some people study the Bible that would say that's an okay conclusion to say, yeah, he did know he had a brother as a young man.
So was he not brought up in the ranks of Pharaoh because he was Hebrew, or because he was, I don't want to use the word like a reject, but like he wasn't a good speaker. You know, he kind of had special needs, we could say today, right? Is that why he wasn't brought up in the ranks with Pharaoh? Because back then, like, they would probably look at that as, yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Any thoughts, Ron? I'm not sure.
I would read it that he was kind of brought up in the ranks of Pharaoh. He kind of went to observe the treatment of the slaves, which would apply a position of authority.
Okay.
And then he ran away.
After killing the
Yeah.
Egyptian. According to Exodus 4:27-28, Aaron does not seem surprised that God spoke to him to go meet Moses. So can you conclude that, Aaron did maintain his relationship with the Lord? So Aaron's position within the Hebrew slave community was going to be helpful to Moses, as Moses is going to have to be accepted. Right? I mean, who are you? You're coming to tell us what about God saying? You, the one raised by the Egyptians? So there had to be an acceptance by the Hebrew slaves that Moses really did hear God saying, I am going to speak to the Hebrew people through you, Moses. So the acceptance of Moses, Aaron's position is going to help Moses in that situation. In a day when elders were respected and held a place of honor in the family, God flipped that expectation upside down. He chose the younger brother to be exalted in a place of leadership. And he chose the elder brother to be the assistant. So Aaron and Moses together as brothers.
And that in and of itself during that time was radical, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you were the eldest son, isn't that, it was very hierarchical. That's the word, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I would think so. Yeah. So Moses and Aaron maybe didn't know much about each other. I'm not sure how much contact they had, before the time Moses kills the Egyptian and flees over the 40 years, But, when when the two see each other after the burning bush incident, and now they're going to spend these pivotal years together. They didn't have, they didn't have a whole lot to go on from their past experiences, but they both realized that God had called them to a specific role and situation now.
That seemed a little strange today. They would say, well, you're 80 years old, you're gonna be in charge of,
Yeah,
I don't know how many people say that. I don't know if it's a good choice.
right, and I mean, we have these, you know, we hear Moses and we think Charlton Heston, right? You know, for some of us who are older. But again, I mean, Michelangelo sculpted Moses. I think he's in the main church in Vatican, and it's a picture of Moses seated, and I guess he has horns, which I guess symbolizes authority. But he has his tablets, and he's just about to step out of his chair. I guess Michelangelo was going for. But supposedly, again, Michelangelo was so impressed when he finished sculpting his Moses that he banged him on the knee and said, "Speak," because he was like just so lifelike. Anyway, again, that's the story. I don't know, that's 500 years ago too, but so, you know, those are my two images of Moses, that sculpting and then Charlton Heston. So, yeah, so how physically able is Moses to travel down? It doesn't, we have the situation also recorded in the Old Testament that Aaron specifically helps him physically at one time, along with another guy named Hur, to keep his arms up from Exodus chapter 17, when the Israelites had their miraculous victory over the Amalekites. Again, when Moses went out to Mount Sinai to meet with God after the Hebrews fled out of Egypt, he led Aaron in charge.
That didn't work out so good.
No. In that situation, Aaron, according to this is just one article here, so this is opinion, but according to Aaron demonstrated that he was not the effective leader that his brother was. Aaron quickly caved to the people's demand for a golden idol. Aaron tried to pretend he had nothing to do with it, but God brought a plague on the Israelites for their terrible sin. So Moses was the prophet that God called to receive the Ten Commandments. Aaron was chosen then. So the Hebrews, how did they worship during their 400 years of slavery? They had no formal, but the introduction then as they leave leave Egypt, the Hebrews are leaving Egypt, now they're starting to wander. They're going to have to end up wandering because of their disobedience longer than it should have taken, right? 4 years. But now they start setting up the tabernacle system and a formal way of worshiping. And now you have this class of people called the priests. And so Aaron is seen as the first priest of what becomes the tabernacle worship, which leads to the temple worship, which again, that all ended in AD 70 with the Rome's destruction of the Jewish temple. Has been rebuilt since. So these two brothers helped each other. God used them to help each other. God used each of them to help each other in this pivotal time in Israel's history. And from Aaron, let me see if I can go here real quick. From Aaron, we get the very familiar One second. From Aaron, we get what is called the Aaronic. That's not right.
Blessing.
It's not Aaronic.
It's Aaronic, that's right.
So how do you pronounce Aaronic? Ironic?
Yeah.
That sounds like ironic. And it isn't ironic that we pronounce it that way. So the Aaronic blessing, however you want to pronounce it. From Numbers chapter 6, the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron and his sons. Tell Aaron and his sons. Again, Aaron's the chief priest. Say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. And that bell rang right on the right time. No. That's the Aaron blessing, all right? So these brothers, I guess in closing, I guess to some degree had to accept some maybe doubts they had about each other coming into this relationship now that they are going to have when God calls Aaron to meet with Moses. And how did Aaron get out of there too? You know, if Aaron was still part of the Hebrews, how was he able to get out? We don't know. I mean, is there anything mentioned about that, Rob? I mean,
Nope.
Yeah, so that's
Just
another
goes to
question.
the desert.
How was Aaron able to get out of his quote-unquote slavery as a Hebrew slave to go meet with Moses? I'm not sure. So, any final thoughts on siblings for this week and Aaron and Moses?
I think Aaron would have showed a lot of humility. You know, because he just helped his younger brother the whole way, you know, not knowing that in the end he's gonna be in charge.
Yeah. In 2 weeks, not next week, but in 2 weeks, I won't be here, nor will Rob be here. Now, if somebody's willing to just take over class in 2 weeks, not next week, Rob said he could do the video, whoever he's interviewing, it could be, you know, closer to 30 minutes rather than just 15 or 16. And then just somebody lead the discussion of anything that was in the video. So I'll remind everybody again next week about this, but if you're going to be here on the 4 and 14 is 18. So for Sunday the 18th, if you're going to be here and you'd be willing to lead, just let me know or Rob know.